Good morning. Today, Jeff Chilson will be presenting from the special speech manual, speech number 3, selling a product. He will be trying to convince us all to purchase something. The speech title is Help for the Time-Starved Marriage. And this is a 10 to 12 minute speech, right? That's what it was listed as. So 10 to 12 minutes. That's it. So I'll welcome Jeff for Help for the Time-Starved Marriage.
As I set up here, everybody, let me take a quick quiz. Ask the proverbial question. Are there enough hours in the day?
No.
No? Okay. How many people go so far to say there are not enough days in the week? I have no problems with the hours, but boy, we need more days in the week. Fallon, definitely.
More days in the weekend.
Weekend.
Yes.
Here, here.
Well, imagine what that attitude is doing to your relationships, in particular, your marriage. Let me take another quiz here, a quick poll. How many people here like to schedule their day out with some amount of detail? From the smallest end to the largest end? Some people like to plan their day out. They like to know, I'm going from this place to this place, going from A to B. How many people are a little bit more spontaneous? They like to live in the moment. Stacy, right away. Right? No problems with spontaneity. Spontaneity right there. But some people like to live in the moment. Well, now imagine this. We take someone who has one of these personalities, or like to plan the day. We'll just call that little bear here. And now we pair that up with someone who's more spontaneous. Oh my word, they get married. They're a couple. What happens now? So think about your relationships from that perspective. And maybe not just your marriage relationships if you're happen to be dating, or think of perhaps a relationship with your parents, or even with your child. Child will be the easiest one at the end of the speech to pick out what the personality type is. But let's complicate that more with the addition of the child. So you got little bear, daddy bear, baby bear. Oh my word, now it is really complicated. This is the scope of the American life. We approach life from so many different angles. But most important of all is that, it's not the most important, but one of the most challenging pieces of all is how do we schedule and keep on top of time? And let's face it, the words instant and fast are almost like quasi-values in our society. How do we manage to keep our relationships together? And so today I'd like to talk about that particular issue. How do we keep our relationship together? Is there help for us who have, particularly with marriages, how do we keep our marriages from being starved from lack of time? Well, the answer to that question, because as you look across the landscape, you will not find any books that take this approach. You look across anything when it comes to time, and it's all going to be about you organizing your calendar and your schedule and planning your day. When you try and match it, like our happy little family here together, particularly the couple, there's nothing out there. Relationship experts Les and Leslie Parrott decided to take on this challenge. They wrote the book, Your Time-Starved Marriage. Specifically with this idea of how do we stay connected at the speed of life. Let me talk a little bit about Les and Leslie, because they really are experts. And it sounds funny, it really is Les and Leslie Parrott. They're both doctors. Les has a doctorate in psychology. Leslie has a doctorate in marriage counseling. Together, they are both professors at Seattle Pacific University, where they founded the Center for Relationship Development. They have been featured on all sorts of talk shows, from the Today Show all the way to Oprah, featured in print, authors of many books. I think the most astounding fact about them is that former Governor Keating of Oklahoma realized in his state he had a problem with divorce. And he said, I am going to appoint for 1 year an ambassador for marriage to this state. He went and he picked by hand Liz and Leslie Perry. Flew them down, had them live in the state for a year, see if he could turn his state around. So these folks, this couple, really have a lot of knowledge to share. And in particular, this is the most fun book that they have put together. But one thing I want to pitch to you is not just this book here. I want to sell you on the tool that they have put together that accompanies this book. First of all, it is easy. It's a time assessment inventory. It only takes 5 minutes of your time. And it's designed simply to get you to think about just how it is that you approach time. And as an example, I have brought a couple pieces. Now, I don't want to bias you on how you take this particular exam when you sit down and do it, so I've only given you some snippets of this particular assessment. But this tool will help you and your spouse discover a little bit about how you approach time individually, and then what you need to do as a couple to make it work together and take the benefits, the strengths that each of you have, and try to overcome those weaknesses that you have. Now, if you turn to the second page of your handout, you'll see here, this is briefly, there's a 7-page assessment that comes out, not a very in-depth one, but enough to give you a picture of a little bit about your approach. You can see here my detailed assessment. This is my personal assessment. You can see I'm a planner. You're probably not surprised by that. I'm an engineer, I'm in Toastmasters, I'm a planner. But you'll get this general detail about how you approach time. I like this part down here at the end because it starts to give you a few tips. Talks about some of the things that, as you approach time, that can be helpful to your relationship, things that might be a challenge. So depending on your personality, you might be insensitive and even impatient. And because you may tend to multitask, you may need to learn to live more fully in the moment. So that's some good, helpful advice. There's some more detail that will accompany that. But to get the best benefit from the assessment, it's good if you sit down sometime with your spouse and take it together. You each take an individual assessment, see where you fall on the scale. So I'd like to propose this. And the book is great. I'll get back to the book here in a few minutes. But I'd like to propose this. Just get this idea in your head. Make a date with your spouse. Whoever it is, like I said, you think of an important relationship in your life, set a time aside when you can work one-on-one with that person, but particularly your spouse. Make a date. Find a coffee shop that's got Wi-Fi access, bring in your tablet, your iPhone, whatever it is you got. Go out to the website. The website is listed right there down in the bottom of the pages, timestarmarriage.com, and take the assessment. Do it together. And then, after you've done it together and you get your particular profile, flip over here to page 3. You'll see that parents have put together a very useful discussion guide that you can talk about how it is the two of you are approaching time. Where are some sticking points on how you schedule, or how maybe perhaps you lack some spontaneity in your relationship. Great way just to sit down over a cup of coffee, talk about the results, see what you need to discover a little bit more about your mate. And then, from that point, if you want to take it one step further, that's where you really need the book. The book, because it partitions everybody in 4 different time styles, and then it says, okay, now I have 2 spouses, so I have 16 possibilities of different types of relationships. The book is actually very short. It's probably only about 120 some pages of text, of actual reading material. The back part of the report, or excuse me, the back part of the book is all about how those different relationship types match up. I mentioned earlier I'm a planner. My wife, she actually happens to be a planner, so it says if you're a planner and you're married to another planner, these are some things you need to think about. One of the things that challenged us was saying, you need to be a little bit more spontaneous. You're very, very good at laying out some details, but you're not very good about just living in the moment. Think about those things. That was a challenge to us. But then I said, try and capture those strengths of how you schedule your days. You know, really relish that time and make it a priority so that you do stay on the same page together. So for every possible permutation of who you are, it's written here in the back of the book with a nice set of helpful hints, some additional things that you can add to that discussion. And then, if you want to take it one step beyond that, I don't know who here might happen to participate in marriage enrichment classes. Marriage Matters Jackson's very involved here in the community, or they have a church group, or just a group of friends. You can go all out. You can get the time-starved marriage video sessions with his and her workbooks. My wife and I have done this with our small group. We have actually a small group, very small at the time, I think it was between 30 and 40 people put together. Of all the materials that we have done, and we have done 3 sets by the parents, this is by far the best. I really enjoyed this one the most, we had the most fun with it. And it really got people thinking about their families, how they spend time, and to look a little bit deeper into the book where they talk about how you can capture some of the hours that are sort of missing in your relationship. And I know a lot of folks here, because I get to hear it in table topics all the time, people love food. You can relate here real easy with the parents. They actually talk about slowing down to enjoy dinner together as one of those ways that you connect very well with those key relationships in your life. So if you're going to stay connected, if your love is going to grow, you need to understand each other. So make a date, take the assessment, discover each other, learn about each other. And then buy the book. It's well worth the cost. It's only selling right now for about $10 on Amazon, a little bit less for the Kindle version. Make sure your marriage stays connected at the speed of light. Mr. Benjamin.
Clear your area, and that'll give us time.